Hi folks, I'm Damon Wood, and this is going to be a guitar lesson for beginners that's also going to involve a little bit about how to play the blues. So let's get started. Alright, so this is a lesson for beginners. So first I'm going to show a little exercise that I give all the beginner students that I have. It's just finding the first fret of the biggest string, the E string, and then putting your next finger on the next fret, just going 1, 2, 3, 4. And whenever you play a note, you want to get it near the fret, not too far back, right near that fret, but not on it. 1, 2, 3, 4, and just do that with each string. And you keep going, and when you get to the end, this last little 4, go ahead and go backwards with that one. And try to keep your fingers in the good spot on each new fret. So that's a good little exercise to get you started. That's called a chromatic exercise. So now let's talk about another easy thing we can do. This is a little bit even easier than that, and is also the blues scale, the minor pentatonic scale. So this is a slightly simpler version of the technical blues scale, but this is a blues scale for sure. So what we can do here is we can start on the open string and go to the 3. We'll use our third finger for that. So we have open and 3, and then next string we have open and 2. We'll use the second finger for the 2. Next string the same. Next string the same. Next string open 3 and open 3. Pretty simple, right? That's the blues scale. And it started on an E note, so that was the E minor pentatonic scale. Now if we wanted to change keys with that scale, what we would do is we would go to a new note. Let's say this note here. We would do that same type of pattern. So you see how the string we started with had a 3-note difference, 3-fret difference? Well, this one needs to also. That's why we have 3 to 6. And then these others would be 3, 5. And then the last 2 would be 3, 6 again. Another thing when you're practicing these scales, since there are only 2 notes per string, just go down, up, and that's going to help you get your alternate picking going. And etc. So you could do the same thing. Since this one has 4 in it, you could go down, up, and you could practice your alternate picking that way. Okay, so that's a little bit about a warm-up thing, and your basic scale and how to move it around to different keys. Now, I'm not going to go into the names of the strings and how to find notes. That would be like for a different lesson. But we're going to kind of talk about the blues a little more. Let's start out, we're going to talk about chords and different things we can do in blues with chords. So let's go over our 8 basic open chords. So we have E, and that's got that 2, 2, 1. And then we've got E minor. Take that 1 out. We've got G. 3 and 2 on the top, the little 3 on the bottom. G can also have 2 3s on the bottom down there. And then we have C. And a big one on C is you don't want to play that big string. You want to either pick away from it, and that's 3, 2, open, 1, and open, starting on the 5th string. You want to pick away from that big E, or you want to have your finger up here kind of touch it so it's muted, because you don't want to hear that. It makes it real muddy sounding. Okay, so that was E major, E minor, G, C. Now we're going to get into the A's. This is A major, open on the 5th string, 2, 2, 2, open. A major, A minor, puts a 1 in it on the 2nd string. And let's go to the D's. So this is D major, open 2, 3, 2, and D minor. You got to flip that around, open 2, 3, 1. Okay, so those last ones we did were A major, A minor, D major, D minor. So let's look at all those again, because we're going to use those to make blues chords here in a second. So E, E minor, let's go to G, and then C, and then we're going to go to the A's, A major, A minor, and D's, D major, D minor. So the very first one, E, if we take this finger out right here on this 4th string, we keep the open 2, open 1 going. Now we have an E7. Nice bluesy chord to get started with. Now the next one could go along with that E7. We can look at this A right here. If we take that middle 2 out of those, we end up with open 2, open 2, open. A7. That goes great with the E7. Now what I'm doing on that strum is I'm just going down, down, up, down, up, down, 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 up, down, up, down. But it's got a little what they call swing to it. I'm not going. That would be straight. Swing is like, and that's because you kind of feel those as a triplet. And a triplet in a swing thing is like, a triplet would be like 1 and 2 and 3 and like that. But in a swing thing, it's like the 1 and the middle one is taken out. So you end up with a 1, 2, 3. So that's kind of what we're doing here. 2, 3, 4. Now we have a chord here that we haven't discussed yet. This is a B7. The B major chord or B minor chord, those are a little bit more difficult. Those are bar chords, so we're not going to get into that in this lesson. But when we get to this progression in E that uses this A also, the third chord of that would be this B7. So this is a little tricky. This is going to be a 2 on the 5th string, and then a 1, and then a 2, and then open, and then 2 on the bottom. And you try not to play the big string, just like with a C chord. So we have the 3 chords that we need to play the blues. And we have our scale that you could take a solo and make your own little melodies and improvise with this very simple scale. So let's look at how an 8-bar blues would go. This is going to go E7 to A7, and it's going to do that twice. And then it's going to start what they call the turnaround. That's when we go to this third chord, which is called the 5 chord, actually. And that's because E is the first note of that scale of that key. And if you went to the 4th note of that, it's the A. That's why the A is called a 4. So we have a 1 and a 4, and then the B would be the 5th note of that scale. So that's why this is called the 5 chord, also known as the turnaround chord. So in an 8-bar blues, we're going to go 1, 4, 1, 4, and then 5, 4, 1, and 5. So let's try that. 2, 3, 4. Down to A. Back. Back to A. And then B7. Takes a little longer to get that one. And then A. Back to the E. And then we'll have the B. Okay, so that's a good thing to practice, playing along with that 8-bar blues on the chords. But another thing that's even easier is just to try to play the notes of this scale as I'm playing those chords. And as long as you just don't go all the way down or all the way up, you do something and switch directions, then you're improvising and you're making your own solo. And you can hold notes as long as you want. What you kind of do is you hear a note and how it sounds with the chords I'm playing. And if you like how that sounds, then you could hold that note out or do more things with that note involved. But if that note doesn't sound great, then pop off to another note in a different direction, up or down, and you're probably going to sound a lot better right away. And as the chords change, the note you're playing, it's going to change like how it's relative to the sound. So you might be on a good note right now, but I might switch to a new chord and that note doesn't sound that great anymore. But all these notes sound pretty great over all these chords at all times. That's why this is the easiest scale to start playing solos with and start improvising with. Okay, so you know your scale. Let's have you guys play. I'm going to give you the chords, and I'm going to have you guys play, improvise your solo, and see how you do. Okay? 2, 3, and. And as long as you don't go straight up and down, you're doing it. You're playing the blues. it up a little bit. This one's a bit more common. This is a 12-bar blues. It's a little bit easier to solo with because it stays longer on some of the chords. Now keep going, and I'm going to add a couple little tricks here and there. See if you can end on an E. Try to find an E note. And I'll give you a little hint. The bottom string, that's the E string. So whenever you play that string, that is like your home bass note that matches the chord if you're on that chord at the time. You got another one on the big one, of course, and then the second fret of the fourth string, the D string, that's an E note as well. So it's good to know where those are. And then when I go to that A chord, if you start thinking about, that's an A. So if you do a little riff that uses that note at that time I'm playing the A, even though it's not in that chord, it is the A right there on the third string, second fret. Now you also have other things like sliding up here. That's a good place to find your B. You could also find it on the second string, open. But this is a cool blues riff to know about. And you could also get up into this 5 here, and the 3-5 up to the 7. That gives you a little bit more notes to work with. Okay, so that's the first lesson for beginners involving how to start playing the blues. So for the next episode of this, I'm going to get into how to use different 7 chords. We'll learn new 7 chords, and we'll see how those open 7 chords can allow us to play the blues in lots of different keys. The episode after that, we'll get into bar chords and how you could switch to different keys like that and be in difficult keys that you don't have those open chords for, like a B flat or A flat or stuff like that. And we'll also talk about combining positions of blues scales. So all that's coming up. Please stay tuned. Please like and subscribe, and we'll see you soon. Thanks a lot.